Alrighty, we should be live a little bit later. It's gonna start at 8, but maybe we'll make it 8:30. Really, we're gonna be just working on art assets. Mm. Hmm. I wonder why these are actually messed up. Okay, they're not all messed up. Weird that some of these crash wonder. Let me go and actually see. CW over CW random color blend was the one that's always been broken and giving us issues. I didn't even see that one. CW other. Random color. It's not even here. There's just ancient stuff from 2020. Oh, right here. Got it. Right, hopefully that makes all those errors go away. Mhm. Hello. How's it going, sir? How's it going, Sarah? It's really warm. Hey, Trans. How's it going? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to the our art stream. We're doing all kinds of. We're kind of at a, what do I call it? Visual slice we're working on. How's it going, Appalachian Drew? I've reached a point in the project where I finished a lot of the gray box stuff. Unforgiven systems is pretty much working. Like members on Patreon can now like pretty much spawn in their own habitation modules. A lot of the original claims are working. It's kind of coming along pretty good. So just I'll give you guys a quick little tour of what you can do right now in the game. Without logging in, we'll just kind of we'll boot up a couple. I want to show you the pool. It's not a super complicated pool, but hey, you know, it just shows the sense of presence that I'm going for, like, you know, the where I want to go with mini games, just direction. Taking a step back, and now that all this is working, and I'm kind of working in the main project that I ported over from Unity, I'm kind of like final arting everything, and I'm like remaking the main ship, and I'm kind of just getting away from the original gray box test project. All right, so just host a little test session here. Switch yourselves back over to the full widescreen. So this is just a server player, just to give you an idea. So no, these out of the way here. All right, I'm gonna join here with Rav. Rav's gonna be orange, I guess, today. So here I am in the universe. And let's join in with this other character. So we're now on the main test station. Right, so everyone's here. This is the new furniture items I'm working on. But check this out. So let's say, like, you know, Trance was playing as an example. We can come over here to this pool table. Pool is now fully working. So there's all these like mini games that we can do now online. So while I'm observing this, you know, I can kind of go and get lined up here, and we can, you know, have this really cool game pool and like very low gravity. So I scratched, that sucks. So yeah, kind of take a turn here. Let's see. Looks like everything is open. We could try for this. Or we could probably go for green, actually. Green's pretty good. Let's go for green. Let's see if we can. I need to add like an actual pool stick. You know, we're a little bit behind the times on this, but let's see if we can line this up here. Look at that. Boom. Don't scratch, don't scratch, don't scratch. And hey, you know, we're just on the little test server, we can just go and observe all this, what's happening. Look at this pool hustler, right? You know? But anyway, what's now working? We have all the habitation stuff online. Right, so now like I don't have a house on this account, so I can't see anything. Just empty. If I go back and I don't know if it's gonna let me. I'm gonna try coming back in as me online multiplayer. I'm gonna join back in. See if it works here. Yeah, I'm back in technically, but I'm in the middle of the universe. Right. How was your stream, Trance? What were you working on? I'm just gonna fly myself over. Oh, there. Sorry, I had to go AFK, feed the cats. Oh, okay. You just kind of missed my little pool session. We're just playing pool on the server. Anyway, we'll leave that guy there. Maybe I'll resume it. I'm gonna take over for him. Doing a little nerd project, remaking System Shock 1 hospital level in the Fallen Aces level editor. Oh, that's cool. See, the server can't really play. The server is kind of decoupled. Let me just close this out real quick. I'll just restart it. I'll give you guys the more full. Now that chance is better. Yeah, let's move this one over here, move this over here. So check this out. So let me just go ahead and host again. Alright, so this is the server character, which won't actually be a character very soon. So for Revere, I'm actually going to go back to the menu, log in online, come back in the multiplayer, join. Oh, okay, no, I see a bug here. I'm running the wrong thing here. Shot your pants, how's it going? There we go. So we had to actually, this time we got to kind of actually organize this a bit more. So let's get a server running. Perfect. I'm actually going to log in. There we go. Over here. All right, cool. So now that I'm in on this character, and I'll just use trance as an example here. We'll give trance like a light blue. All right, so we have, trance A, and we have myself, right? So there's trance, there's me. We're slightly the same color. I kind of really should have kind of picked up a different color, but hey, there's trance, there's me. We're in the space station, we're playing together. We can play space pool and all kinds of our little, mini games, but check, this is what's new. If I take trance here and we head down to this habitation module. And so we're just, trance is following me. So if I go over here, I'm not actually logged in on this account. So if I click, notice I don't have any habitation modules. But if I come back and I'm just going to put myself here. So Revere does. So Revere is actually logged into the server. If I click, there's Rav's place. I can actually unlock it. It'll take on the next slot. So here is Rav's place. These are all the kind of the stuff that I've decorated. Right? You can actually like decorate your own rooms. And what's cool is Trance can now come into my place. Right? Everything's all persistent. And he can visit and kind of see how things are. And if another player was actually logged in, and they go and they spawn in their own, then it'll just take the next available room. So you pretty much have player housing fully working, right? So whenever, whoever owns the room, they're done, and they want to, store it, right? They can just lock it, and there we go. Right, so that was one of the original promises on the Patreon, was to have players be able to go and spawn in all their own, like they can go to the furniture store, spawn in a whole bunch of furniture, take the furniture, decorate their own environment, and, customize it to their heart's content, right? And and that's kind of how the player habitation system works, right? But that now this goes beyond, you know, the mini games and all the systems and everything. We now have fully persistent, you know, ships. So all the ships that we purchase can now be spawned in. So if I, just as a demonstration, I'm going to spawn in like a test ship here in the middle. If it will let me spawn one in. Oh, it won't now. Right. Because it's, yeah, we have to use the systems to spawn stuff in now. So broke it. It's over here. Yeah, okay. 1 second. So I should have a ship here. Spawn in. Where did that spawn in? What's the issue? Can't open the player ships. Oh, me organizing everything. Wonderful. So it's a terrible time right now for showing off stuff because I'm not necessarily actually in this project anymore. I'm in this project, and in this project, things are a lot more realistic. So this is how the game is meant to look and how the game is meant to run. What I'm about to show you here in like 10 seconds. Yeah, so this is what Unforgiven Space, you know, this is the visual target of US. And what's cool is most of this stuff now working in the gray box phase. So like, this is what the character actually looks like. This is what the character animations actually look like. Right, it's all like all equipment. There's still some gray box placeholders. Right, but this is what you're actually, here, let me just move this over. So you can, you know, this is what you're working with graphically. This is what I want. Right, all the components are all, the ship is fully customizable. Every single thing on the ship, like, you know, if I, you know, the fuel, power plant, intakes, coolers, everything, engines, like I can't take the engines off right now, they're kind of broken. Right, but the idea of Unforgiven Space is you buy cargo, you sell it, right? You're buying cargo, you're bringing it from point A to point B, you're doing missions, you're doing delivery missions, you have planets, right? Like you need to have a warp drive for this thing to actually even go anywhere. You know, it's, I think there's one in here. Oh, there is, okay, I'll eat this. So this is like, you know, kind of what I'm going for. I'm supposed to be able to hold Alt and look around, but we'll get all that working. Don't you worry. Right, so every one of these rooms are all instances. It's like a hospital module. I know the alarm. I don't know why there's an alarm doing that. Alright, so that's just one of the hospital modules, FOV and stuff like that. I'm kind of working on now, making it feel good, you know, making it look good when you're in warp, you know. Although the warp needs there's some weird like lighting issues, but the warp drive here. Let me just turn around. This is how it's supposed to look. And warp just gets faster and faster. Yeah, everything is kind of broken as it's being put together now in the kind of the main visual slice. Looks very smooth. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Or it will be. And I want to show you, just let me just do one more little test while I'm going to go hunt down that sound. So let me just show you the dream here. So see over here, there's a little HAB module. Let me just make it bigger. It'll take a bit for all this to kind of come together. I'll also switch it back to 60. There we go. Because I'm refactoring everything and I'm putting it all together, it's all in a pretty broken state. So these are components here, like item components, like same as the ship components. But I'm gonna buy a sofa. I'm gonna buy 2 bar stools. I'm gonna buy an island, and the light, and the big sofas, and they're just spawning inside this, item component box. They're all rigid body components, and they use the ship systems. So what I mean by this is like let's go bring these in here, right? So these are nodes. They're all dynamic nodes. So they're pre-allocated points, right? So there's no like crazy customize. Like you can kind of put things and rotate things, but it's using the item port system that I made for the ship to decorate nodes of the habitation module. So that's a limitation, but it's a limitation that means that I can create, as long as I create enough of these, right, with different size constraints, you can kind of like customize your own place whatever way you want, change the color, change floors, change right, different modules. That way when you invite your friends over, it kind of looks cool. So it's your little apartment building in space, right? It's what you rent. But you have customizations over your own if you just right now as a kind of a backer / someone helping me make the game. I know that'd be cool because these are cargo items. You can still buy and sell them. You can put them on the ship, slap them in the cargo grid, and and it just gives you like your own little, I don't know, your own little kind of place. Call your own. All right, so this is what we'll see inside each of the rooms, right? That you're actually able to spawn in. So the the gray box version's a bit like a little bit under exaggerated, but. What's your opinion of AI, of AI 3D generate game assets? I don't really care. I mean, I'm a direct, like I would consider myself like a game designer. You know what I mean? Like that's my view of code as well, right? Like I don't care about the code because I'm responsible for the entire vision of the game. Right, so I have to wear all the different pants, right? I got to wear the artist pants, I got to wear the developer pants, I got to make shaders, I got to all this work, right? I have all this work, right, that we have to do in all these different disciplines. So if you can use AI to remove one of those dependencies, and ultimately, of course, whatever it generates is still in line with the vision of the game that you're trying to create, like it's still like what you're explaining to the AI to create ends up building what is in your head. I think that's a good thing, right? But if you use it to be lazy, it's like pseudo make me a game. I don't really think it's going to be that great. Like it's kind of like it's the same limitation you have with art in general. Like if an artist doesn't know, like as an example, like say I hired an artist. right? And the artist's job is to make me a tri laser. This is a tri laser. You know, it doesn't know anything about like let's say there's no information, right? So I haven't created the homework of what this is, like what manufacturer makes this, what's the aesthetic of the manufacturer, right? Like where is the manufacturer located, right? So, you know, an artist could create a version of this that's super hyper realistic. They could create a version of this that's old and rusty and full of edge wear. You have unlimited creative freedom to make anything, right? So just like AI has tons of, you know, like historical human data to make everything. I think you still need to have that direction. Like you still need to feed the AI direction, just like you would feed like an artist direction. So like when you have, you know, a bunch of different components and they're all from the same manufacturer, they all need to have the same cohesion, right? And all that kind of stuff. But like I think AI is just a tool, right? It's just a tool to create the vision that it is you're trying to create. Whatever your game is, whatever your concept is. And if the AI, you know, allows you to create it, then as a tool, it can't necessarily be a bad thing because it's accelerating your workflow. It's additive, right, to your workflow. But if you're using AI to be lazy, you know what I mean, and just kind of not really taking in these fundamental things, I think what'll happen in the future, especially with code, is that there'll be a lot more on the pre-prompting side of things. Like there'll be more work on the product itself. Like what is the concept of the product and what does it do and how does it do it and what is the whole, you know, like it's more, you know, more defining the solution itself and not the implementation of the solution, because you know the AI can then create the solution pretty effectively with the information that's given to it. I don't really know that, like, if that helps you, like, in my opinion. Like, you know, do I think AI art is cool? I mean, I think if it works, it works. Like, if it's going to create, like, I don't like greebling in sci-fi at all. Like, I hate random greebling, like little, like, pipes all over the place. Because my brain is like, what does that pipe do? You know, like, what's the point of that fan? You know, why do these panels exist? You know, or do they exist for access? You know, like what's the point? Like why do I need grills here? Right? Like what's the mechanical engineering behind everything? You know, that's like my own brain. And I think, like, you know, whether AI creates something, I think AI can create something pretty shit. And but I also think an inexperienced artist could probably create something pretty shitty too. So at the end of the day, it's really just how, like, all the work you put into it, you know, like, as well, you know, you can just ask it, make me a sci-fi asset. It's probably never going to be the same every time, you know, unless it has context. And it's like everything, it's just a tool, right? If it proves to save time and still create the same results, then I feel like people are going to use it. But yeah, so that's what we're working on. We're actually working on station modules because we have this original truck stop. This is the original truck stop, and I don't really like it. It has a lot of flawed gameplay designs, right? So this is like, you know, how the game was laid out. It's like an 80s. Everything's very 80s. So the areas you would go play pool, this is like Irish John's Pub, and you know, Irish John's Pub needs a bit of work. You know, it's you know, I don't like this area. It's a bit like big, doesn't have a lot of vistas, right? There's a lot of dead space here, and sometimes dead space can be good. You know, there's nothing wrong with dead space. Creating vastness could be like beneficial, but in this case, it doesn't really help me. It creates some, there's a lot of visibility here where, you know, if someone's outside the station, all of this has to be rendered. So you're not really calling anything, and your occlusion's not really working in this case. And, you know, there's a lot of there's a lot of things wrong, with the station, but it was a good starting point. Like spawning your ships, you have landing pads, they kind of work. A couple years ago, when I was making all this, it all kind of made sense. And then as things have evolved, it's like, maybe it kind of doesn't make that much sense anymore. Right? 'Cause there's a lot of metrics not defined. And a lot of things like where, like, there's cargo areas, but then they take up space, and there's like just all this dead space, between the apartments and the hangars, and so I want to redo all of these, and change everything up. Right, there's a lot of design stuff that happened over the last while. So like I want to make like all these modules, right? Like for like hooking up cargo and things. They're all now specifically in units of 8, right? So they're like 16 by 16. So this whole like unit thing is 48 by 16, and just kind of playing around with the different designs. And ultimately this will make it easier to like snap all the different hallway components, and right, like everything needs to be like puzzle pieces so that we can scale the game up, right? Everything has to be like very scalar, right? And I've already, if we go into some of these prototype scenes, show you. Right, so in this new concept, right, the idea fly through here, right, is because everything is an 8 by 8 by 16 unit, right? And then I can create all of these kind of pieces that fit together, right? So they all fit together, they all have the correct rise over run, and there's not like, they have like different kind of, pillar aspects, and they have structure to them. They make sense, and they make it so we can kind of, automatically generate a lot of the areas in between, some of these, between the hangars. If you're making an asset dependent and intense game, if you're making an asset dependent and intensive game, it can save a lot of time. It could also code and debug for you. Oh, for that, yeah. Yeah, so this is like what I'm working on now, is creating some, different modular, station designs that really help bring a lot of this stuff together. But the what changed lately is I don't want to use landing pads anymore. Landing pads became a kind of a thing of the past. We have this new we've got to like so this is how the new yeah, so the new landing pads, what is it under? Hold on, click, thanks. Yeah, slowly getting everything moved over to 4.5. Love and under 4.5. So let's give it a second. I don't know why it looks so dingy. Okay. So the new system is going to be used to create a yeah, there we go. Okay. So from the beginning to the very end, we now have a dual stage animation. Ignore the right. So the idea then is this and this are the same state. I know they look they look differently. Like they're separate states, but at least they're it can run in reverse. So like, if I'm spawning my ship, I run the animation this way, and I leave it in this state. If I'm storing the ship, I run it this way. And this way, like, as NPCs come in and land, right, they just get stored, and then there's a whole cycle, and the user can't see the ship disappear. So it's just so that, like, it naturally cleans up the ships and, makes it a little bit, like, simpler. And it's all within the metrics I've defined for medium class ships, medium and small. Right, and then that really helps with the, with the way the new hangars are going to work. So they're using pretty much the same, the same hangar type design, but I've unified also the rooms here. So how we load and unload cargo, right? So there's always going to be this same room in the back, with the same, like a overview where you would go and spawn the ship in. So your visibility is the same. Up here there'll be like, the actual pads to spawn the ship. Down here they'll just be like the tools. In the test environment, they'll just have them all laid out, but that won't be the case. So then here we have, what will be like the new, I don't know why it's just all leaking everywhere, but yeah. So this is what the, the mall area will be like. And it's a little bit cleaner, right? And I still want to be able to look like up into space from inside here. Yeah, ignore all this stuff poking in, but just being able to have the multiple floors of the different shops in one area make it a lot easier to scale. All right, so this is kind of like the like a new redesign of how I want to see the stations kind of come together. And they're none of this stuff is final. Like what I like about this too is it allows some of the like the stores to have like a little bit of a coupling type thing. Like I could have a standard smaller station that has these little like malls, like little kind of like a small mall areas that are just kind of integrated, kind of right into the area. So they're like little pockets. But anyway, not sure that, what I'm going to do with all these different hall connected pieces, but this would just start. But, just figuring these out, getting the right actual dimensions and stuff right for the first time, because a lot of the stairs in the game were way too, they used to be too steep, and they all need to be within, yeah, make it all so everything can all join together and look cool. Right, and I can then add in all the paneling and trim sheets and stuff and the different stairs, and right, so that's kind of what I'm thinking, and going back in now and looking at like, well, what can we do? If we're we don't have we're not going to have landing pads anymore, right? Because we want to have the station kind of have its own exposed detail, right? Where we can anywhere we can occlude something like a hangar as an example, right? Like we can easily, depending on the angle, like you don't see anything in there until you get close enough and the occlusion kicks in and you can kind of see everything. How long have I been doing game dev for? Probably 4 years now. 3 years in Unity, 1 year in Godot. It took 6 months to port the project over. So it's learning. It's every day, learn. Until you get to a point that everything kind of starts working. But yeah, there's a bunch of refactoring we still need to do. So we still got to do. Yeah, so most of the stuff now is going to be A, fixing issues, and then continuing some of the system design. So there's a lot of stuff here in QA that needs to be fixed or it needs to be confirmed as bugs for QA. But I want to get the comm system actually integrated. I want to get the fuel system integrated. There's a bunch of stuff right now. We're waiting for 4.5 to come out for some of the IK stuff. There's a lot of like some of the stuff can technically NPC spawning their own ship. It could be something we can actually get going in the tail end of this week. But yeah, there's a lot of blockers right now. But yeah, lots of stuff on the Art 3D. How much do you usually make? I make nothing on game dev. Game dev is more of a cost. A cost of time and a cost of money, really. So if I go to Patreon, Unforgiven Space, right? Currently, we're the project itself is running off of 151 USD a month. Now that said, there's no marketing. The only thing that I do is stream here on Twitch, release builds, and get people to test the builds. So it's not like there's not a massive push, for more exposure right now because, I mean, it's not gonna, like the resources help me, outsource a lot of the shader work. Like there's a lot of custom shaders we've had built, for the game, for which comes off in the Patreon. Like everything in the Patreon goes towards, I have a dedicated server we use for the production environment. It's like a quad core. I think it's quad core Xeon. I think it's a V6 Xeon with an SSD array, and that's co-located. So we have like full dedicated hardware to test on 24/7. But really, like it's not like we're well, not Tarkov, but Road to Vostok, right? So funding pretty weak right now. It'll improve, I think, as the game becomes more playable. Right? So the game becomes more playable, Patreon could pick up, But I don't work as a game dev for my day job. I work in finance. I build tax software. So, but my goal is to hire an artist, full time. Then artists could go crazy, and start banging out, assets, and especially while I'm doing a lot of the engineering stuff, and then things will come out a lot faster. But I can only work with what I have. I can only kind of chug along. From what I can see right now, it looks like another 2 years. Before we get into I'd say a fairly polished, fully working vertical slice. 2 years, but like it's playable now. Like you could go and jump in the test environment right now and play the game, but you're playing the game in a gray box. And it evolves. Like I still do builds. Like I said, most builds are every couple of days. I'm doing a build, so you're watching the world be built around you. Which for some people is kind of cool, and it's very alpha. It's not even alpha. It's development. It's not an alpha build. It's a development build. It's truly like give me feedback of how the players behaving, and try flying the ships. Right? How does it feel? How does the ship feel? How does like the interpolation feel? What can we do to change things? Yeah. So what I want to do, I think, tonight is work on a prototype where we have one of these core modules, like with 2 floors. So it'll be like the same as this, but it won't. It'll just be like one side, and it'll have the same thing on the other side. So it'll be like 2 buildings in the middle. So there'll still be like windows on one side and windows on the other side, but it'll just be like one module that we connect to. right? So it won't have any of the apartments. Like that'll be its own thing. And this whole system here, before transrated, like that was what I'm doing now. So I'm trying to figure out a standardization in gray box space of how big each of these modules need to be so that we can have like a storage room, and the storage room be dynamic. You know what I mean? Like it could be 1 unit, 2 units, right? And we could hook on as many of these little storage modules as we need, and this gives the station, you know, loading and unloading. Right, so the idea is like, you know, transport vessels just kind of come here and dock and kind of like load up the cargo, and then they go off and, you know, do their thing, go from A to B. It's a gameplay loop I haven't actually, you know, tested since, you know, Unity. You know, so we have these like reverse flights. It's pretty much like space transports, right? Like transport ships. You're hauling cargo. But I wanted to redefine how these kind of look and feel. So it's not like super entertaining, but at least if you have any questions about the game, you know, I can be showcasing things like as we're kind of chatting. Yeah, so it's because this is 6, 8, and 6. Yeah, what's important is that like all of this stuff like can be, you know, snaps together, and right, because a floor is actually 6 units high. Right, so this is actually like 3 floors high. Right, so it can kind of join in with other systems. Yeah, and I do want. Yeah, so we're doing like 1/4 for this kind of shape. And I actually kind of like this. But I think we'll need to just bring them up. And this is all very much, this is just, you know, what we call gray boxing. And we're just figuring out shape and form and how it all fits into the level. And hey, is it Trevin? Or Trevron? Welcome to the stream. What is the hardest part of developing this game? I think the art. I think art is actually the hardest, and most time consuming. I think sitting here in Blender, like knocking out stuff, is pretty time consuming. In comparison to like most of the other aspects of the game, like coding, like developing it, netcode even. You know, I'm not even too worried about like netcode. I'm not too scared of netcode. Like anything you can do on the engineering side, I think is pretty straightforward. But vision, like having like knowing, like you know, in this case, like it's level design's a little bit interesting. Like making sure everything kind of fits together and is cohesive is very like is a skill on itself. but it kind of comes from like you're just kind of playing with Legos, and as you start kind of putting stuff together, I think it kind of falls in place. Like you don't really know what you need, I guess, until you're kind of you get it all working, and you're like, how scalar is this going to be? You know what I mean? Like how easy will it be to add more shops or like to add a clinic or something? To like even these, right? Like originally, all these stores are like 5 meters wide, and then that doesn't work. Like if I keep everything in like 8 meter, like sizings, like 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, everything starts being bigger, but also easier to deal with. Like the hangers are the same thing, like ship sizes for hangers, all unified, right? So we have like it's 24 by 32, landing pads for the medium-sized ships, and then they double, they double, they double, right? That's so for the bigger ships, and now things are a lot easier, like even stairs, right? Like once everything starts being unified, you start being able to snap things together and scale, because it's all about scale, right? Like I have to build, you know what I mean? Like all these stations, right? That we're kind of going to and from when we're buying and selling stuff. And like it's easy for me to say, oh, well, metals are sold here, or this is a factory station, and this is used for this or that. But then I have to put the work in of actually representing that stuff, right? So that's why I'm kind of like in the gray box version of the game. So this is all me just gray boxing, right? Everything has now been standardized, right? So, you know, ramps going up between levels or elevators or all these different like pieces and railings. We know that all of these are, like this whole thing is 32 meters. Like I can snap all this stuff together, you know, pretty easily, right? Different pieces. It's all different pieces now, right? That just kind of work, right? Just 32 by 32 chunks, you know. Right, so scaling everything. There's a lot of stuff missing, but it's because it's all prototype stuff, right? But then it makes it a lot easier to scale things up. And right, stairs here, the same stairs used everywhere else, and eventually all the different floor panels will be the same, and And Chevron, how was your stream? What were you working on? Right, so even like the signage, right, it's just placeholder, but it works, right? Everything works as a placeholder. It's faster, easier, quicker to prototype. When you get into more of the final details, and it takes a lot longer to create the final art that you need. Yeah, so I'm liking this. It was good. I was just testing my Godot overlay. Godot, I'm assuming the whole product is called Godot overlay, and running some SM64. Cool. Let's grab another clone of this cargo module. Oh, okay. And then we'll just flip it. Yeah, and now as an individual piece that kind of functions on its own, that we can kind of attach for all of these space trucking, it'll be a little bit easier. I'm just like remaking my stream over in Godot. It was just being cheeky. One of these days I need to look into like doing those type of things. The Twitcher add-on makes it super easy, so you don't really have to like fuss with the Twitch API. Is that the one made by Candy Dev? Oh, nice. Big fan of Candy. Right, so like all of this thing here was made eyeballed, you know, so it's cool and it works, but it's not like perfect, you know. That should be the pure middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so this is the true dead center, which these are a little bit off, and I think they're off by 0.25 because that was the spacing requirement that I was doing with something. Something was like there's some weird like floor or something offset or something here that's like kind of terrible. But yeah, so ideally you want to kind of bring this in the design somehow. So you want to leave that where it is, and move it under the sides. This is 4, so that's 8. Yeah, like this weird, like not using specific metrics, like this being Right, it's at 1.3, and that's what it's supposed to be. Right, this should be 8 total between them. And the thing with a lot of this, you're noticing I'm just using like very simple shapes. Like I know there'll be detail and structure between a lot of this, but just kind of need to get a feel for it. Right, because if every unit is 8 by 8 by 6, as far as like these building blocks that make them, and then we get 3. We get 2 floors of 3. Weight of interior space. Could either connect or bring the Right, so you have a lot of options. There's a lot of options of like free rooms, like big giant kind of connections that we can kind of do with this, or small connections, or we could bring in like, a room that's like overlooking the cargo container and have like storage and like connections in between these. But it all works, right? And they can be 1 unit wide, 2 units wide. They can have, like different variations, right? Just want, and this whole thing could be moved over by 16. the whole actual thing, and there could be all the storage on one side, and there could be a regular old hallway through the middle where you don't even realize there's storage on the outside of the whole thing. Like, this whole thing can move over. Like, right. Right. But if I wanted to make this kind of look cool, or have some, yeah, like a separator of sorts between them, which I'll use like one room of space to do. Mhm. Give me some mesh. Because I want the same floor over to. Does that not? I don't want to reparent it. Go away. Shift D is always. I can separate them. Yeah, this is the hard part. You know what I mean? Like just observing and taking a look at things and getting like shape language down and how you feel about things. Because there's no right or wrong answer to any of this stuff, you know? Wait, well, I like the way this works so far. Yeah, so this works. Size-wise. What is that? Duplicate it. Shift. Eight, eight, E, A. The direction. So I'm thinking that all this works, and like looking at it, I'm like, yeah, it works. Like, systemically. The goal is to be able to make this right. So if we have, these connecting rooms, you can remove all this weird, just squares, right? So creating different exterior shells, joining, just to wrap around all this stuff becomes very easy. That's the goal, right? Scalable, modular systems where this whole thing can split. You know what I mean? Like we could have 2, 3, 4, 5 of these, right? Or one, like a small little module. Right? They all need to kind of join. I'm gonna steal some of this and bring it into another. So we all. Can it be smaller? Why is all that here? Alright guys, it's going on almost 11, so I'm going to get ready and read out in just a bit, but I think this is coming along. Like, I think with this new mall design, like, it'll be a little bit more cleaned up, a little bit more, you know what I mean? It's the same on each side, more room for different shops. Technically, it could go 3 levels or 4 levels if we wanted to, because we have, like, the underside. But, you know, a little bit easier, a lot of room to kind of like bring things, like more modules, like through the station for, you know, getting around. And definitely improves upon like the gray box. Right, because this, we want to get rid of this core module and create individual unified pieces. So there'll be like one for unloading, which is what we have here. It's kind of... So this was originally like very early, you know, this is where all the cargo comes in. And it's cool because you can look down and see that from this room, but we can still do that. And I think this will look a lot cooler if we just bring all of this in. So like we still have the same concept, but we get rid of this because we don't need to be, you know, we're not really going to be, you know, looking out over the sides anymore. Alright, so it'll still be kind of the same thing, just shorter. And it'll unify itself with the other modules. And I think it still gives it like a nice sense of scale. And we could tint it if we wanted to and just make it so you can't see in. If we run into performance regressions. Because I think we can get away with just doing 16, but I don't know. Like, I'm not sure how it feels to sit here and look up, but you can't really see what the stores are above. Is the issue. Like, even with the low FOV, like I want to be able to like have players be far enough away or be able to be far enough away they can see what the, you know, and obviously we're not going to put a medical module on the floor. But we will have the different shops, you know, similar to how we have it laid out. in the gray box. Anyway, that's the game. Hopefully, guys, thanks again for the raid for everyone. Let me actually just look up, give you guys chat arena, give you guys some shout outs. You know, I'm working on the game pretty much daily. If you guys are interested in, you know, checking out, supporting the project, consider, you know, throwing $5 at the Patreon. Only if you want to. You know, the game is gonna get done regardless. You know, but it's a slow moving progress. This real quick. Shout out. Trevor. Should have given Trevor a follow. But I think this would be really cool if it's all organized a bit more, and we can kind of get rid of the original truck stop concept, and you know, just have these bigger modular stations. It'll be cool. I think I gave. Let me just go back in time here. Yeah, let's give a shout out here to Trance. Just waiting for the. You're being rate limited by Twitch. What? What do you mean? It's timed out. We're good. Okay, well, guys, give Trance a follow as well. I'll just give this a second and I'll try to do it again, but I don't know why it's being stubborn. There's no on-screen message anymore. Nope, it's just being a pain. Maybe there's more of a timeout. Yeah. Alright, we're gonna go find someone to raid. Do big boy games, I think. We'll see you guys later.